Much of Dark Souls' story is gotten through item descriptions and the occasional NPC dialogue. There's an incredible amount of room for interpretation, and as a player, you're expected to fill in the gaps yourself with conjecture, gossip, and logic. You might see other YouTubers with their own logic of what happened in the world of Dark Souls, and that's perfectly fine. Truth is, there's no perfect answer, and there's no definite lore. The story as it'll be presented to you is my understanding of the world. If you disagree with a certain conclusion, be sure to let me know in the comments. Just don't be mean, okay? Before time immemorial, the world was runky emptiness. All you would find were mountains, rocks, enormous trees taller than you would be able to grasp, and immortal dragons. It was beautiful, a beautiful empty world, until souls came. A change in the world happened. Whatever triggered it, however, it's not really known. It is possible that some dragons were being born without scales, hence without their immortality, and as these dragons started to die, incredible souls were released upon the world. It is entirely possible that from this energy, change happened. Creatures were created, creatures other than trees and dragons, and so the dragons ruled over them. Another incredible thing happened, however. From the light came the Lord Souls, and from the dark came the Dark Souls. The creatures, probably by now a couple of 100 years old at least, founded Lord Souls, and within them found power. Power to take over their dragon overlords and take the land for themselves, and so they did. The leaders of these creatures and the owners of the Lord Souls were Nito, the first of the dead, the Witch of Izalith, and Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight. With their newfound power and with the help of the dragon betrayer, Seath, one of the Skaldas, they took down the dragons almost to extinction and claimed the land for themselves, ushering an age of fire. In the world of Dark Souls, an age of fire symbolizes dominion over darkness, a world full of light, colors, warmth, and gods, or in this case, lords. Thing is, ages are never meant to last, and so the world became ready for the next cycle, an age of darkness. After about 1,000 years of prosperity and light, the fire started to fade. The cycle must always continue. Like a clock, nightfall needs to always fall, regardless of how much you might appreciate the sunlight. The lords, however, scared of the fading light, tried to forcibly extend the Age of Fire. The Witch of Izalith, using her magnificent soul, tried to create another kiln of the first flame. The power, however, was too much for her to control, and the chaos fire that she created engulfed her and her daughters. Instead of creating an infinite source of light in the form of a fire, she ended up creating an infinite source of life in the form of demons and plants, and so were the demons created. After the witch's failure, Gwyn himself decided to kiln the flame once more in any way possible. He shared parts of his Lord's soul with the four kings of Londo to rule in his absence, and another part to Seath for his loyalty and contribution. And so he left to the kiln of the first flame, followed by an army of silver knights to defend him. Gwyn, realizing that there was nothing he could do, he sacrificed himself to kindle the flame forcefully and usher a new Age of Fire. The fiery explosion turned the Lord of Light into the Lord of Cinder, consuming most of his soul and transforming him into a husk of his former self. The explosion shard the silver knights that accompanied him and transformed them into the black knights you see roaming around Lordran. Thing is, in doing so, he created a curse. The curse of undeath, and this is where the interesting part of Dark Souls starts. The Walking Dead. You see, the world of Dark Souls is a very interesting one. It's almost as if the universe itself tries to balance itself out. The cycle is sacred. There will always be an Age of Fire, followed by an Age of Darkness, followed by another Age of Fire, and so on. In other words, an age of gods and lords and an age of humans. And as soon as heresy falls upon the world, the universe itself balances it out by empowering humans and cursing the lands of the gods. The cycle usually lasts about 1,000 years, and every extension of it thereof as well. Regardless, thanks to Gwyn, a new Age of Fire began, and so the clock reset for another 1,000 years. But this is where everything turned to hell. More and more started to get infected with the dark sign, and those who were started being corralled in prisons, never to be seen or released again. The curse is, however, an unstoppable force that proved too much for the kingdom of Lordran to handle. And so, the kings of Londo fell into darkness, seduced by the serpent Keith, realizing there was no escape from the curse, and the Darkstalkers were born, seekers of humanity. You see, we forgot about the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. If you remember, I mentioned before there were two types of souls, the Lord Soul and the Dark Soul. The Lord's soul was found and distributed between the lords, but they had no clue another soul existed in the darkness. A soul the furtive pygmy found and kept for himself. Through the age of fire, the pygmy slowly and quietly split the soul between his offsprings. Much like how Gwyn could split his Lord's soul into shards, so did the pygmy with the dark soul into sprites. Humanity sprites. Humanity is extremely important for those wishing to bring an era of darkness. You see, for undeath, as powerful as it isn't without its flaws. A human blessed with the curse shall not die, for he shall be resurrected within the fire. The less of the dark soul that you possess, however, the more of yourself that you lose, until eventually you turn hollow, just an empty shell without humanity, and an undeath without humanity dies forever. So now, going back to our Darkstalkers in Londo, with the knowledge of Keith, they turn into invincible warriors, extremely skilled and unkillable, bent on one thing: destroy the fire, and cast darkness into the world. This is why the gods decided to flood Londo, and now all you see are the Londo ruins full with water. They did so in order to stop the Stalkers from taking over the whole kingdom. Fun fact, Knight Artorias was actually really good at killing them, thanks to his ring that would allow him to traverse the dark, which is why he earned the title Artorias the Abyss Walker. Regardless of the small details, this combined with a never-ending swarm of undeads sprawling every day, surviving Darkstalkers killing people to steal their humanity, and without Gwyn to lead them, the Empire of Lordran fell. 1,000 years after Gwyn sacrificed himself to the flame passed, until your character escapes from the asylum, and all of this happened. The four kings, as the city was being flooded, escaped and made the Abyss their home. The husk of Gwyn's soul remains at the Keln as a hollow. All other remaining gods and deities left enter Londo to escape, only leaving Gwyndolin to guard the tomb of his father and to guard the large vessel. For it was everyone's beliefs that a chosen undead was to follow on the footsteps of Gwyn, to sacrifice himself to the flame and usher the age of fire once more. The Witch of Isolith became a firekeeper in the form of a grub, protecting the bonfire from danger, and Nito, completely happy with an upcoming age of darkness, sleeping in his tomb, waiting for the abyss to consume it all. Seath, crazed by his experiments to find immortality, closed off in his keep, and so, Dark Souls 1 begins. The cycle must always continue, as gods and humans must each have their time in the world. What do you think it is a chosen human undead that gets to decide whether the fire continues or darkness prevails? It is their turn, after all. Dark Souls 2 tomorrow. Wait for it.